Welcome, everyone, to the next episode of Insurance at 78 RPMs. I'm Connie Germano, Chief Casualty Officer of Dual North America, and I'm joined by my partner in insurance and fellow music lover, John Naus, Chief Property Officer at Dual. Today, we're honored to have as our guest Dawnmarie Black, Client Relationship Manager at Amwins and President of the Board of the Association of Professional Insurance Women. John, are you ready?
Yeah, it was a great conversation and can't wait to share it with our listeners.
All right, well, let's get to it.
Dawnmarie, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you both for having me. Good to see you.
Yeah, great. We're excited to have this conversation with you. So let's jump right in. Mariah, do you want to play a little bit of Dawnmarie's first song?
I wish I was a neutron bomb for once I could go off. I wish I was a sacrifice, but somehow still lived on. I wish I was a sentimental ornament you hung on the Christmas tree. I wish I was the star that went on top. I wish I was the evidence. I wish I was the grounds for 50 million hands upraised and open toward the sky.
Well, we know that song is Wish List by Pearl Jam, written by Eddie Vedder, who, by the way, was at Wrigley Field yesterday to watch the Cubs lose the second playoff game. Darn it.
Oh.
My wife was there and saw him. But I digress. This was the second and final single released from Yield, following the Billboard #1 mainstream rock hit, Give 'Em to Fly. The song went to number 6 on the mainstream rock chart and also registered on Billboard's alternative airplay at number 6, all dope alternative songs number 9, and Hot 147. It's everywhere. Wishlist enjoyed the second longest stay on the Hot 100 of any Pearl Jam single. It's 20 weeks, quite a long time. Matched that of I Got ID'd and trailed one of my favorite Pearl Jam songs, Last Kiss, by 1 week. It was reported that the lyrics were simply a stream of consciousness, and if you listen to some of Pearl Jam and Eddie Vedder's lyrics and singing, you could see why that would be the case. And it's followed up by I Wish I Was as fortunate as me. Dawnmarie, why did you choose this song?
So first of all, just the music, right? The flow of the music and I love I wish I was the ornament that you hang your keys on.
Mm-hmm.
Just thinking about all of the different things, right? When you go through life, all the things that either we take for granted, right? Or that are part of our lives and the things that having that opportunity to be something different. My favorite line in there is, yeah, I wish I was the souvenir that you kept your house key on. Because you think about it, you grab your house keys, right? And that souvenir, you have it because it meant something to you. But you really don't think about it in your day to day. You get in your car, you think about you're going to go driving. So it resonated with me. And also when I was younger, I had always had this dream that I wish that I could travel the country and do every job that you could possibly do. And to have those experiences, right? And to accumulate that knowledge and that understanding of all those different perspectives. And so that song kind of reminds me of that. It's more about things we have in life. But I wish I was at home behind the sun. Think about the whole world out there and is there alien life? Could I be at home behind the sun? What does that mean? And then the pedal brake that you depend upon. Again, it's like such an important part of our lives. We never think about it. So the idea that he had this wish list but then also talked about he wished he was as fortunate as him and, the things that we take for granted. So being grateful.
Yeah, that's really really interesting. I want to just take a second and explore your comment about you wish you had every job there ever was. We'll get into your insurance jobs, of course, in a minute. But is there any sort of job, as you've gone through life, you wish you'd had or wish you'd explored that you didn't get a chance to, based on that childhood dream?
Supply chain management. How's that for really exciting?
Astronaut.
You
That's
would not have guessed that. So
no.
I'd go to one being a nurse because they had always like a Red Cross nurse to me. If I had that fortitude and the talent and the guts to become a nurse, that would be top of my list.
Mm,
But the whole idea of logistics and moving things, I don't know if you've ever read the book Atlas Shrugged.
yes.
Okay, so Dagny Taggart running the train line, right? What an incredible woman, and to have that to build a train across the country and be able to manage all of that. So that's why I say sort of supply chain or logistics, because to me it's fascinating how all of that comes together.
Yeah, I agree with that. And you think about that in terms of like prosecuting a war, right? Like a World
Mm.
War II. Like, how do
Well,
you get the gas where it's supposed to go? How do you get the troops, the planes, all of that? I mean, you're right. It's sort of an interesting. It certainly isn't the answer I thought I was going to get, but now that
wait,
I
what did you think you were gonna get?
don't know. I mean, when you're a kid, it's a cowboy. I want to be a professional baseball player. From my perspective, right? I want to be a policeman. All these kinds of like
Yeah.
things, and then instead, a supply chain magnet. I probably couldn't even spell supply chain when I was a kid. So, hey, it's
Well, I was a dancer, so I did dance and choreograph. Ideally, if I was really like I loved it, and if I was 6'3" and had the dancer's legs and the abilities to dance and choreograph, I would do that. But I'd say my talent bar wasn't quite high enough. So we'll go with supply chain management.
fair enough. Well, we're thankful that that worked out because you joined our industry, the insurance industry. So, take us through sort of how you got there from post college, or what was your sort of origin story in terms of getting into the insurance industry?
Well, a lot of people in our industry talk about how they fell into it. And I did not. So I was fortunate. My dad had an insurance agency. I grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and my dad had an agency there. It was my goal. Gosh, you guys are going to think I'm the most serious person in the entire world. But I started working there when I was 16. I did a lot of other fun things. But from an industry perspective, I started in the mailroom. Some people may not even know what a mailroom is today, but the mail and the file room. And I worked different jobs, and my goal was to take over his agency someday. That was when people would ask me in high school, "What are you going to do when you graduate from college?" This is what I want to do. And I didn't take that lightly. That's not like, some entitled, oh, this is what I'm going to do. I worked really hard for it. I was licensed to sell by the time I was 18 or 19 PNC. By the time I was 20, life and health. I worked at an agency. I went to Allegheny College, which was a small liberal arts school north of Pittsburgh. And I worked at an insurance agency in town. That's how I got my beer money, my fun money. And I did cold calling for the agents, and I became a CSR. And so I very passionate about this industry. And a lot of that is down to my father, just being such a role model. I was talking with Connie about this. I was working in the mailroom at this one day, and this woman from Hartford came in, and she's the marketing representative from Hartford. He pulls me out and he introduces me to her and says, "You could be her someday." And for a dad to have that sort of belief, right, to put that faith into his daughter, and all of the things that he did for me throughout my high school and college years, and preparing me to become a professional. And he'd say, "You need to earn your way in this world. That is what you are going to need to do. Don't ever forget that." And it's a valuable lesson, right? It's a driver.
Yeah, it's a great story.
Sometimes we just need to be able to see someone doing a role, and that gives us the extra oomph to envision our own selves there, right?
Hmm. Well, and it's funny, my mom worked for most of my growing up as well, and she was in clothing, and she was a retail buyer, and she'd be like, "I don't understand. How does this daughter of mine want to go into insurance over going into going to New York City and buying clothes for a retailer?" And it was, nope, no interest.
Interesting. And then, so you had quite a journey in the insurance industry. You've gone many different roles, many different locations. Is there one that really stands out to you um, in the course of your career?
Um, Gosh, they've all been so different and so special. I starting out, I what I started out in was energy with Chubb, and, incredible training program, but I was handling, insurance for coal mines, all lines as well, property, casualty, auto, and, so I'd have to travel to West Virginia, and I got to run a drag line. I got to go in a helicopter and see all of the properties of one of the big mining accounts. Um, so incredible learning story, and I got to know the engineers really well. So what that started me off on in my career was a very technical based approach to insurance. And, I learned so much from them. And then moving into the energy side up in the Boston area, I became really familiar with power plants and the technical underwriting, having to work with the machinery breakdown and the property piece of it. John, this is sort of your area, being property, um, highly technical. And I loved it because the the colleagues who focused in that industry were so highly focused and technical, but so much fun. Like, just an incredible group of people who I think really appreciated and respected one another. Um, but I think moving from that, and then I moved into facultative for quite a while, which I loved. Um, and then I did that for a long time, and that really allowed me to travel the world. So another wonderful thing about the insurance industry is the opportunities that it gives you. And I know that you both have traveled extensively, but that chance when you get to do the the world ticket,
Yeah.
uh, going west and then coming all the way back and coming east, it's just absolutely incredible, the countries I've had the chance to visit. Um, I'd say my highlight was when I was at Aon, I was asked to build a system called Fact Connect, which Aon still uses today, which makes me feel really good because it was like 15 years ago. But it manages facultative automatic contracts, and it's a highly uh, intuitive interface system. And I had never done anything with IT in my life. Um, my boss called me in. I want a proof of concept in a month. We want to present it at our global meeting. I want it live by January 1. So all of a sudden, I had a team of 8 developers working across marketing, working across legal, procurement, and we did a global launch. We managed to do a soft launch with one product line on January 1st, and it was absolutely the most incredible experience I've ever had. Being able to deliver that and work across so many different divisions to make it happen. There's the supply chain, right? How do I pull all these things together?
And it was on time.
And on time, yes.
Awesome.
On budget might be questionable, but it was definitely on time.
I just have one sort of quick follow-up question. You look on LinkedIn, there's a lot of, hey, this is my 30th year at this company or 25th year. And then for you, there are many, many experiences. Was there a reason you think you took that route rather than sort of, setting down roots, say, in Chubb for a 20-year career, 25-year career? Because I think either one works, but I'm just curious as to why you chose your path.
I'm a very naturally curious person and I love to learn. And every transition I've made is not because I went out and looked for a job. It was because I was working with the company that I moved to. And so, in working with them, understanding maybe what some of their obstacles were, or seeing a mutual where I could bring something to the table.
Mhm.
And so, for me, having that opportunity to have worked in facultative, and then moved more into automatics, which is portfolio underwriting, and then moving more into MGA business and understanding is that was sort of a natural evolution. Um, but it's always been relationship based and also passion based. Like, this looks really interesting. I'd love to learn more about this. I think I can add value. It fits with my skill set. Let's go do it. So to come to Amwins and be a relationship client relationship manager, especially at a time in our industry where it feels like there's so much change, and change, and maybe not actual change in distribution, but how people are looking at distribution and becoming um, more diverse,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Um, so I think coming into this role at this stage of my career is really exciting to me because I know I can add value to the clients and give different perspectives.
Yeah. Well, one thing's for sure, your passion is showing through. That's clear.
Yeah. And I love that confidence. I can help them, even though I don't know much about it. That's great. I think you're going to be a great supply chain management
They,
person. I can't wait for that move. All right. Any more questions, John, on that one?
No.
All right. Let's move to your second song. It's hard for me to move off of Pearl Jam because they're definitely in my top probably 25 bands. So I had to choose that one. So our second choice, Mariah, is it ready to go?
Well, I started out down a dirty road. Started out all alone, and the sun went down as I crossed the hill, and the town lit up. The world got still. I'm learning to fly, but I ain't got wings. Coming down is the hardest thing. Well, the good old days may not reach.
Right. So let me talk a little bit about this song. So I love this song too, and I'm a big Tom Petty fan. The song Learning to Fly by Tom Petty was released in 1991, and I think he was in the middle of a divorce, or his marriage was falling apart at the time, and it was the first single from Into the Great Wide Open. And Petty wrote this song with Jeff Lynne from ELO, and you can kind of hear that ELO feel in the song, I think, if you listen to ELO as well. And Jeff Lynne was also his band member in the Traveling Wilburys. And Tom Petty was one of those artists that he did a number of things, and it felt like everything he did was just a little successful. And I wonder if he also had a lot of wishes like you, Dawnmarie.
Yeah.
But he told ABC News that year about the song that everyone has tragedy in their life, and he was inspired by a pilot who said the hardest part about flying a plane was coming down from the air. You can lay down and let the tragedy overwhelm you, Petty said about his own experience, or you can fly above it. And I think that's sort of what I'm trying to say in the song. I don't say that I can fly, I'm learning. And also we're expected to do a lot of things and we're not necessarily equipped for. So he said that about the song. So I'm curious, Dawnmarie, tell me about the reasons for choosing this song.
Um, so to me, it's a song about resiliency, right? It's about taking risk. And I think we all know that, right? We're risk takers. That's what you both do. That you specialize. And in insurance, we're risk takers. But just in general in life, you take those. You feel like you're flying for a period of time, but there's always that sort of come down, and it's to his point how you weather that landing. So to me, it's about risk, it's about resiliency, hope and caution, right? It's a very hopeful song, and but it's also saying, be hopeful, take your risks, fly, but remember there's going to be a landing point.
Yeah. We talked a lot about this about the last song, and that was kind of you taking on new things and your desire to become a supply chain leader.
Oh my God,
So
this might be my worst
I
podcast.
know. Well, this is not going away.
I think next time I see you live, I might say, "Hey, what's up, supply chain?" That might be your new nickname.
Uh, but you've taken on a number of things in your career, and uh, maybe you felt you were equipped for it. Maybe you thought you had some things to learn about. You definitely said you felt like you could help the client. So how do you think about that though as you're about to start that, right? You've decided you're going to become a reinsurer, a fac reinsurer. You haven't done it before. How do you get into that job and be as effective as possible quickly?
Well, listen and learn. And I probably didn't do that a lot when I was younger, but I have definitely learned that now. So, you know, going into facultative reinsurance and then being a broker. So I was doing a bit of fac at AIG. I was at Lexington and we were doing the primaries in the late 90s. In the
Is that when
property
they let
town.
underwriters do fac and
Yes.
they finally said
November
no?
in Boston. Yes. So, so I'd learned quite a bit, but going and what happened is I was doing a lot of business with Aon Re Facultative, and they said, "We think you'd make a really good facultative broker. Why don't you come on board?" And so I spent a lot of time shadowing people, getting to know and understand the process, getting to know um, the markets, I think, which is getting to know the carriers and the reinsurers and, understanding what the market opportunities are. Um, but again, I leaned on my specialty from energy, and I got to know the Houston Aon team very well and the Aon London team very well. So I would grab business that was going from Houston to London and back on large accounts and pick off the facultative opportunities. And sometimes we'd go sit in Houston and we do the mud map. I don't know if I haven't worked on a large account in so long, but we'd all sit there. They'd bring in the wholesaler, they'd bring in the reinsurance, they'd bring in the London folks, and you'd map out, I think my market can come in here, and you'd figure out how to build the entire structure so it all came together. So definitely leaning on that experience that I'd already had. Um, but then leaving that opportunity to grow. Um, and back then I was so bullish, right? There was nothing that I couldn't do. So I'm going to learn it and I'm just going to go. Today, I come to Amwins and I'm okay, very experienced. I know a lot of Amwins people. I know a lot of our retail clients, but I don't know the job yet, right? I'm learning that. So I come in with my 30, 60, 90-day plan. Let's go. Let's give me 30 days to learn this, 30 days to learn this, 30 more, and then let's fly. And so that works for me now that I've sort of mellowed and I understand in my career that you don't know everything. You might be experienced, but there's a lot that I need to learn and understand about the culture and how things work. So a little bit more of a muted approach this time around.
Do you feel like in your early career, and you said you take a little more time and listen more. Do you think that sometimes if you jump right in and make changes or assume things, that it actually slows you down in the long run?
Yeah,
That
yeah.
you make mistakes? I mean, I'm not saying you did.
Well, I mean, Connie, you and I have a shared experience of APIW. When I became president last September, I jumped right in and I very quickly, like, we need to fix this. We need to fix this. Hindsight, I wish I would have sat back for 30 days or 60 days and said, okay, let's look at this holistically. We made tremendous progress and we've just, we've gotten everything where it needs to be. But your point is very right. And I don't know if you felt that as a board member, but
I think because I was new too, I
mm,
didn't I didn't know much different, so
okay.
I thought it was great.
Oh, thank you. Well, so, but, so yes, I do think that you can jump in very quickly and miss things. You
I
might
mean, certainly there are times
stop.
when you have to, right? When there
Yeah.
are critical moments, you have to.
Hmm.
And I mean, you're literally sort of learning to fly in Amwins, right? With this new role. I mean, what do you think from if someone asks you to define a relationship manager, your new role, what would you tell them? Like, what are the key pieces of that to be successful?
Strategically thinking about the client's business, right? And so understanding where Amwins fits in the client's strategic plan, but then also what's happening in the rest of the market. So you're really having that holistic, especially when you're talking about the larger, right? So if you're talking about your larger retail clients, so it's understanding strategically what their goals are, where Amwins fits in to that picture, and then where are the opportunities. And then the other piece of it is then making sure you're bringing to bear everything that Amwins has to offer, right? So, and that's everything. So really, you're dealing with Amwins nationally, understanding and getting to know the brokerage teams, how they operate by property, casualty, access, underwriting, London, how London comes into the picture, and so the goal is to deliver all of that to the client to meet both the goals of the client and of where we're trying to go and of the insured, right? Ultimately, we always have to think about what is the best interest of the insured and how do we all get there working together.
Yeah, that's a considerable task. I mean, Amwins is a very, well respected, big firm with lots of options and lots of opportunity, and having to navigate. It makes sense to me having someone like you help the client navigate that, right? Because otherwise, how would you even begin to try to understand where you needed to go to be successful without guidance?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's great.
Thank
All
you.
right, Mariah, why don't we jump into the next tune?
Hope that you fall in love and it hurts so bad. Hey, the only way you can know, you give it all you had. And I hope that you don't suffer, but take the pain. Hope when the moment comes, you'll say, I did it all. I did it all.
Very good tune. I had never heard this one before. I mean, I knew who Run Republic is, but it's not really in my bailiwick of tunes. But now I've added it to my playlist. This song, I Lived. By the way, I'm going to get into it a little bit, but my favorite line was, "With every broken bone, I swear I lived." And I've had several in my career, so or in my life, so I can relate to that. But it was written by frontman Ryan Tedder as a message to his son, encouraging him to embrace life and overcome fear. It's just a great, great message. The main theme is living with courage and making the most of every moment. I used to say to my kids, it's like, there's only one lap around the track. You got to get off the bench and you got to run it, right? So, uh, additionally, the official music video for I Live continues the message by telling the story of 15-year-old Brian Warnicki, a fan with cystic fibrosis, insisting or inspiring others to live fully despite any challenges. Um, Dawnmarie, why this song?
Well, I did you see the video?
Yes.
Right. Just so inspirational. It's just,
Yes.
hearing his story and I read something that from the funds that they've raised, that they've actually managed to extend the life expectancy from 33 years to 55 years with cystic fibrosis.
Wow.
Just from the focus and the funds they raised, but a disease that was relatively not well known, and it became very well known, and they've made so much progress. So it's really impressive.
It's a classic example of using art for good, right?
Yes, yes.
Exactly. And Don Maria and I have spoken about this, but cystic fibrosis is in my family, and so I've known this song for a long time, and the attention and the ability to lengthen the lifespan of these kids, right, into adulthood, which for many years was not possible, is really remarkable. So I was super pleased to see this song in your playlist, Don Marie.
just to see him, right, to know how much his lungs are affected and to see him on that bike and know how many miles he rides, like any of us can do anything if we put our mind to it, right? And so I think that um there's one of the lines, hope if everybody runs, you choose to stay. I think that's another really powerful line in this. Um, and then the idea of yeah, of the many places and the things that I did, of every broken bone I swear I lived, to your point. Uh, and the song also always makes me think of, I went skydiving about 8 years ago, and I was sort of at this weird juncture of life, and I was like, well, if I go skydiving and I make it, then I can do anything. Um, and I made it, right?
Made it, but what'd you think?
Oh my god, it was the most incredible experience, but the scariest part is when you step out on that wing, and I did it in tandem, so I had somebody with me. But you step out on that wing, and you're standing there, and he's going 3, 2, 1, jump. Like, wow. If you can get past that, the wind's blowing you, and then you're in the air, and then we tumbled 3 or 4 times before we caught, and I was like, "Oh, this is it." But incredible experience. I would do it again.
You
Really?
are a risk taker.
Yeah. Bungee jumping next. Who knows? So one of the lyrics I took away from the song was, "The only way you can know is to give all you have." And you, excuse me, you referenced earlier that you're president of the APIW, maybe, and you also, I think, participate in IICF. Maybe you could
Mhm.
talk a little bit about those organizations for maybe the listeners who don't know what they are, and then why you've decided to participate the way that you do.
Uh, so I'll start with IICF because again, I was at an interesting juncture in my career where it's probably in my 40s, and it was that sort of what's my purpose in my job? What's my purpose in this industry? And I went to a women's leadership conference, and a woman was talking about the importance of getting involved in boards because it can give you more purpose, it can sort of change your perspective. And so I went to my management at the time and I said, can I join the IICF board? Because that's basically you make a donation and then there's a board seat made available to you to
Wait,
participate.
Dawnmarie, can you just explain a little bit about the organization so our folks know? It's called the International Inclusion and Insurance Forums, I think. Is that right?
It's insurance industry charitable foundation.
Oh, okay.
Insurance industry.
Close
And
enough.
basically, it is the industry coming together to represent itself and to give back to communities during time of need, right? And then in general. So each of the chapters choose their own charity that they want. So they raise money for, and they give money to local charities. And then they also do fundraising after major events. So hurricanes, uh, wildfires, that kind of thing.
Okay.
Um, so wonderful way, right, to have a sense of purpose and to do it with peers in the industry because each chapter board is made up of all of anybody that we would work with locally. Like for me, it was in the Boston area. Um, so I joined that board, and then 8 years later, I became the chair. I learned a lot about it. I learned, what it would take, and it was a great leadership opportunity. Um, and then that gave me the opportunity to jump to. I was invited to join the board of the Association of Professional Insurance Women (APIW), and served a number of different roles in that and programming and I was treasurer. Um, but again, that opportunity to come together with this very passionate, we have a board of 18 people, um, this passionate group of women who are interested in the professional development, bringing women along, and then also the younger, the talent and the younger generation. So a really big focus on internship and mentorship uh, connectivity, learning and development. And we have 3,500 members in APIW across 13 network cities, and we're growing. And so it very fulfilling and a great way to give back to the industry.
Do you feel generally positive about the way the industry addresses these kinds of things? I mean, it seems to me we're pretty good at it. I mean, there's a lot of organizations that give back and support, and we're always attending, broker and and market events that support other charities. I think it's an industry that really does give back, I think.
I totally agree. I was just at the Business Insurance did their all in conference yesterday, and spoke alongside fellow association peers. So Naya, Laya, AIN. We just love our acronyms in this industry, don't we? Uh, but my point being is that each of us have an association that we're responsible for that has a specific purpose, but we're all working together to share best practices, right? But also to support one another, to collaborate together to do events, to raise awareness, and to rise, bring the industry up. And I don't think we would have seen that a few years ago. So it's something that I think should be celebrated.
Well, that's great. All right. Are we ready for song 4?
Sure.
All right. Mariah, is it ready for us?
Well, it's not always raining. There'll be days like this. When there's no one complaining. There'll be days like this. When everything falls into place, like the flick of a switch. Oh, my mama told me there'll be days like this. When you don't need to worry, there'll be days like this. When no one's in a hurry, there'll be days like this. When all the parts of the puzzle.
So, Van Morrison, also a favorite of mine. Often we use this phrase, days like this, to describe a bad day. And Dawnmarie, you strike me as someone who doesn't have many bad days. But here, instead of describing a bad day, Morrison flips the idea on its head and describes a day where everything seems to be going just exactly right. It's been described as a song with a soothing nature that makes it a concoction, of glowing energy. That was the exact quote. So the interesting thing about this song is the fact that the whole thing sounds like one giant chorus, which explains why I had a very difficult time just deciding on the right clip for this. You probably didn't know that's part of our role. We have to
Pick
select the
clip.
song and then select the clip that makes sense, right? And I really struggled on this one. So it sounds like one giant chorus, except the song does not actually contain a traditional chorus. Instead, Morrison wrote 5 consecutive verses that describe the opposite of bad things that might happen throughout any given one of those days. Each one using the refrain, "There will be days like this." It absolutely ties everything together, and it was such a struggle to find the right clip. So for you, Dawnmarie, why this song?
I get finding the right clip. When all the parts of the puzzle start to look like they fit, there'll be days like this, and right you're trying to manage and juggle so many different things, but it's the optimism. It's the hope, because there are really great days, and I think that we can dwell on the bad things that happen. And I think I was joking with you, Connie. I feel like I've picked the most hopeful, optimistic playlist in the history of playlists, maybe. uh,
Sign of the times, maybe.
Maybe, right? There's a lot of headwinds out there that we're all facing. When did I just see Aon just talked about geopolitical issues has now just made the top 10 of a lot of risk managers' concern. But in general, it's there's fear and worry in the world. There's economic, there's geopolitical, but we're still living our lives, right? We get up every day. We have family to take care of. We have fun things to do. We have our jobs, and you just get on with it. And so when you can appreciate a beautiful sunny day, or taking your dog for a walk, or just the simple pleasures in life, well, that's a great thing.
I agree. I would guess that you were a fan of Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Yeah.
And of course, he famously said life moves pretty fast. We don't stop look around once in a while, you might miss it. I mean, this is basically what that is. And it's suggesting that, how could I expect to be able to school on a day like this? I mean, it's just so great. To your point, you have days like this and you need to take advantage of them. So I think it's a great tune and it's a great way to think about life, rather than, we have days like this. I'd rather think about it and like, oh man, it's great to have days like this, right? Because
Yeah.
that's just better, for sure.
Yeah. So, when you think about, we all have bad days, right? If when you're having a bad day, is there anything that you do that you say, all right, snap out of it? Let me turn this around and turn this into a good day. Is there anything that you would give someone advice for and to do that?
Um, well, exercise, right? Like I
Exercise.
find
Okay.
right if you get out and just get outside and walk for an hour or jump on the treadmill, I find that completely changes my perspective on things. Um, but then also just, you know, your network or I tend to try to like music. So, again, being having the opportunity to put these songs together and work with you guys and really think about the importance of music in my life and how I depend on it and the seasonality of it. I don't know if you're both like this, but depending on the season sort of drives my music taste sometimes.
Mhm. For sure. So there's summer playlists and there are
Mhm.
Christmas playlists and winter playlists. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, yeah. So, it's that it's being with my dogs. So, like sometimes it's the simple things. Like your dog does something stupid and you just hang out with him or her for a little while. Um and so I guess it goes back to the simple pleasures to try to snap out of it.
I will say all of our guests so far on this podcast have been phenomenal and all have made great contributions. But what you just said about when you're having a bad day to exercise is incredibly true.
Mm.
Incredibly true. The amount of endorphins you get from exercising and then just, oh, I accomplished, even you said treadmill 30 minutes, whatever. It's so great. Now you said, okay, well, I'm turning this around because now I've exercised. I feel good, accomplished something. And then next thing you know, that bad day is gone. It's I couldn't agree more with that. It's very, very insightful.
Yeah. Have you ever come up with a solution to some problem while you're exercising?
Um yes, I am sure I have, but I tend to allow it to be a free flow of thoughts as opposed to jumping on the treadmill and trying to think about. I actually try to do the opposite. I try to think about nothing. But you often find when you clear your head of all the clutter that's in there, you end up finding the solution. It might not be while you're on the treadmill, but it might be an hour later because your brain is functioning more clearly.
Oh, good. I like it.
It's interesting. We talk about Morrison's good days and bad days. So you think about the industry around attracting talent. Some days it's good, some days it's not so good. Sometimes we have a hard time. How do you see that for our industry in terms of attracting young folks into our business? Because I think we're kind of in a bubble, right? We need to bring some more folks in here because we skew a little older, I think, as an industry, and we need to solve for that. How do you see that?
So I see a tremendous amount of energy going into this across our industry. And I'll just case in point, Connie, the work that you're doing on the mentorship with St. John's, that's happening with APIW, uh, Rise Professionals. They're I don't want to misquote it, but they're 8,000 members of Rise Professionals now, which is just incredible, and that's the professional organization, focused on young talent and professional development. So absolutely incredible, and they're standing up mentorship programs, and they do a gala in June that is just absolutely incredible, the energy level of the young talent, and then there's a lot of us, seasoned professionals, right, who yes. um, who are investing in it because it's our opportunity to give back. And I know that, like, I'm very passionate about that. Connie, I know you are. John, I'm sure that you are as well. Um, but there's joy that also comes from spending time with the younger professionals and offering those development opportunities. So I think it's a win-win for all of us. Um, I'll say like in the Amwins world, so we have a retirement program that quite a few Amwins brokers have entered into, but it's a long-term program where they're passing their books on and they're developing and mentoring that next generation of talent to transfer that over and work together. And to me, that's a win-win. I, you've got respect, you've got legacy, and then you've got learning and development, and then you're serving the client at the same time. So from a cultural perspective, that was a huge driver for me when I was looking at Amwins.
It's a great way to build business continuity for both the client, the person who pays for the insurance, but also for Amwins, right? It would be awful if people left and there was no one to service that book. That sounds like a great way to manage that for them.
Mm, yes.
All right. I think we've exhausted that song. Are we ready for the next one?
So, Mariah, we're into the last song of this very happy playlist. So let's hear what this one has to say.
Get along down the road. We got a long, long way to go. Scared to live, scared to die. We ain't perfect, but we try. Get along while we can. Always give love the upper hand. Paint a wall, learn to dance. Call your mom, buy a boat, drink a beer, sing a song, make a friend. Can't we all get along? Song model on a billboard, 1-800 get to know me. Wondered was she photoshopped or were her eyes really that lonely? Did she leave her home?
So great tune, great way to finish the podcast. Just a quick story: when I moved to Nashville 8 years ago from Chicago, Kenny Chesney lived directly behind me. He also lived behind 8 of my other neighbors. His house was equal to about 8 or 9 of ours, but he subsequently sold that and now is elsewhere. I think he's down in the Caribbean somewhere.
Yeah.
But Shane McAnally, Russ Copperman, and Josh Osborne wrote "Get Along" for him before Hurricane Irma, the superstorm that devastated the Virgin Islands in 2017, and they held on to that tune just for him. It's an anthem calling for the need for compassion, empathy, and unity in a divided world. Imagine that, Dawnmarie. You like this song. It encourages listeners to look past differences and find common ground and focus on the simple joys like making friends and appreciating life. Love the tune. Love Kenny Chesney. Why did you choose this song?
So my very favorite line in this song, and maybe this kind of says it all, but all you're given is in life, all you're given is the sunshine in your name. And we just started laughing when the sky started to rain. And it's just, like, right, the irony of it. But that actually is the truth, right? You're born into the world, you're given your name, and obviously a lot of loving and caring and support, hopefully. But it's that hopefulness and that can't we all just get along? And, how do you make that happen? And so there, there's definitely some irony in the song, but finding peace and common ground, to your point, is I don't know. Maybe that's how I feel like I spend a lot of my life.
Dawnmarie, when we first met, we were sort of just chatting about the podcast, and Connie and I both enjoyed hearing your story about taking up fly fishing with your husband. That would be a good example of getting along. Okay. But in listening to the lyrics and what you'd said, and I had mentioned the concept of "can't we all get along," how do you square that with sort of the insurance industry? Right, a lot of us compete day to day. A lot of us are fierce competitors, but at the same time, just through the discussion over the last 45 minutes or so, it's clear that it's a friendly competition. How do you see it?
Yes, it is definitely competition. There's no doubt about that, right? And we're all in business. We're all in business to succeed. But it is the most collaborative industry when you look across some of the other, particularly in financial services. Um, the camaraderie, the sort of the desire to accomplish for the greater good. John, you mentioned all of the charitable events that we all go to. You look at things like all the service, right, that goes into adding to our industry. You know, the work that Connie and I do with APIW, it's service, right? We're volunteers. We're not getting paid to do the work. We're doing it in addition to our job, and we're doing it as a part of a passion. And I see that replicated time and time again. Um, I also see where competitors come together to help solve a problem, um, or to make sure, like if you look at a WSIA and the opportunity for the collaboration that comes from being part of that association representing all of us and the impact that they have on the industry and bringing it along, and the boards that people sit on, the for WSIA and the contributions from each member company wanting to make the industry better. Uh, and then I just lastly would say, having come from Lloyd's, right? The Lloyd's marketplace, you've got, I don't know how many syndicates are there now, but 88 different syndicates who are not working only in competition, but in collaboration and sharing capacity on line slips and putting that capital to work for the client. So you get a little bit of both, but I can't imagine um, a greater industry to work in.
I agree. Even David Howden says he believes insurance is a force for good, and I had not heard that prior to him saying it, but I do agree with that. I think Connie would agree as well. Do you see that sort of in the future? What does your crystal ball tell you about the industry over the next, say, 3 to 5 years, in terms of just being a force for good, or just generally, you know, existing?
No, I don't think it's going away, John. Yeah, it's such an important part of the economy. I think we're going to see massive change in the next 3 to 5 years. I think digitization, right, and what's happening with AI. I see how we're using AI. Um, there's a great podcast that I can't remember his name, from Marsh on Voice of Insurance. I don't want to introduce competing podcasts here,
Oh, quite all right.
but
We're sort of in the insurance industry, Dawnmarie. You just
we're
said it.
collaborating.
Yes.
But Marsh Digital are talking about structured data and where they're going to get away from putting slips in Word, right? So I think we're going to get to a point in the next 3 to 5 years where we're sharing submissions that can be shared all the way down the line. So it can go to the carrier, it can go to the reinsurer, it can go in the admitted market, the E&S market, and you're going to have more of a structured data AI driven solution than us emailing slips and Excel spreadsheets and bordereaux and all of this, which is incredibly inefficient. Um, and the insurance industry is ripe for a change. I think we evolve a lot, but we haven't had really a major industry change to get us to that efficiency level that is going to be a game changer for all of us. Because then, like the two of you, again, big specialists, you could focus on your craft and not all the other stuff that goes around that. And that is gonna be a game changer.
It makes me laugh that we need to be more efficient. And then I think about you're starting your career in the mailroom, and I'm thinking we've gotten efficient, but I recognize that we have a longer way to go. But it just to your point, does anybody on this podcast know what a mailroom is? It's like, yeah, I do, sadly, but yeah,
Well,
to your point, I think that's going to change, and I think it's going to make the industry better, more efficient, easier to operate in, for sure.
if you look at where capital's coming from, so if you think about the facilitation of business, think the large client treaties that are going to London, that's forecasted to be over $2 billion of follow-on capacity in 2026. That's significant. So when you start to think about, could you start to efficiently package risk and bring more capital in that way, you're never going to get rid of the specialization and the need for focus on individual risk, right? And bringing those talents to the table. But it'll be really interesting to see how that all comes together.
I think the big major shift for us was COVID, right? And how we now operate so much differently in meetings, how we hold meetings. That was a big change for us, but I absolutely agree with you that some level of change from an efficiency and how we get those submissions and how we're all able to look at those submissions in one fell swoop would be a big change for the industry.
Agreed. Well, Dawnmarie, it's been a pleasure having you on the podcast. I know you and Connie know each other a long time, and this is sort of our first introduction. I've extremely enjoyed it. Looking forward to seeing and speaking with you again down the road. A terrific list of songs, all of which can be found on our Spotify playlist. All the additional ones we didn't get to will be added. And we appreciate all your contributions, not only to the podcast, but to the industry, Dawnmarie. It's great to have people like you in the industry.
Well, thank you. And John, it's been so nice to spend time with you, and we'll get along down the road.
Very, very well said. Thank you.
Hey, Connie, thank you so much.
Thank you, Dawnmarie.